Okay, I'm ready to begin with the process of setting up the character for box modeling. A couple minor details I want to make sure I got right and that you got right. I forgot to freeze the scale of the reference objects. So go ahead and highlight those, right click, choose freeze scale. That is the same as freeze transformations. And then let's turn on reference for the image maps so that we cannot select them. And the last thing is I want you to know where your references really live. Okay, we've used the attribute editor and such, and you can get access to the attributes through there, but that's not really where the image lives. So you've got the image plane object here, but the truth of it is, if you go to Window Hypergraph Connections with, say, the front view selected, the front camera selected, notice the two image plane objects that are attached to the front shape node. So they're actually attached to the front shape node of the camera. As you already know, almost every object is made of a transform node and a shape node, and so these image planes are attached to the camera. So that's the truth of the backend. So if you really wanted to just clear this out, you could either delete that object or come in here and delete those, and you could easily remove your reference. I wanted to take 1 minute to prove a point. You probably have heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. For the camera that we model with, set the focal length to 75. The purpose of this is so that when we zoom in very, very close to the mesh, it doesn't overly distort and shift. So if I set this to the default, which is 35, and key that, notice that when I zoom in how the nose gets larger, things tend to bow towards me, and that's basically a fisheye lens. So if I drop this to 10, for example, and key that, notice how it bows towards me as I zoom in. Okay, so that's the effect that we're trying to avoid, because this makes it very, very difficult to determine proportions. And since our references are flat, the human eye, by the way, the human eye is approximately the same as a 55 millimeter lens. Okay, so that's what I look like when I look at myself in the mirror, supposedly. So, but 75 tends to look better when actually modeling. So keep it at 75. Let's go to the other scene and make sure it's set to 75. Okay, and in our reference scene, select the camera, focal length 75. I'm at frame 1, and key that at frame 1. Great. And I have the references hidden to begin the modeling process. So let's get that started. There are a couple of things that we need to learn before we can begin modeling this figure, because I intend to teach this using the modeling toolkit. And the modeling toolkit I haven't taught in the introduction to modeling class, so you're going to need some time to acclimate to it like I did. So, and it will take a little time to acclimate to it, but it's totally worth it. So I'll talk about the advantages as we go through the figure, but let's just discuss manipulation of components, because that's such a basic thing, a basic element, that there's some things that require explanation. So let's hide the references, bring the sphere into the scene, frame it up, and the modeling toolkit is this fourth button on the status line right here. Go ahead and launch that. It's usually docked. It's docked right there. I tore it off so I could see the channel box and the toolkit at the same time. Okay, so right off the bat, there's an on button right here on the top right of the modeling toolkit. Hit that to turn it on. What that does is it switches all of the selection and manipulation features to the modeling toolkit. So now when you hit Q, that is still select, W still translate, but it's the modeling toolkit's tools instead of Maya's original tools. So Q, W, E, R will switch between these four tools, Q, W, E, R. And also they have the option to do more than one component selection at a time. So if I hover over a a polygon, I can get a polygon. If I hover over an edge, I get an edge. Point gives me point. Or you could limit it so that it's only going to give you points, so you can't accidentally get polygons or edges. Okay, so the easiest way to select things is to hit Q, just like you would in Maya. Tag what you want to tag. And then if you want to translate it, hit W. And the difference here is don't reach for the gizmo. Even though it says somewhere in the manual that you can use the gizmo, don't go for the gizmo. Go for the point. Excuse me. Go for the point itself. Go for the component that you're manipulating and just grab it and then move it around. Okay, that's the best way to use this. And use the move tool with the tweak setting. So you can use the move tool with pick marquee, but it's not going to really do anything. It's just going to pick stuff. And every once in a while it'll move, and sometimes it won't. But if you switch to tweak, and you get within a certain range of a component, and there is a range, there's kind of like a tolerance or range. Notice that as I move my cursor closer to this point, there's a hot spot where it can actually makes contact with that point. So you don't have to actually put your cursor right on top of the point. There's this range where it reaches for it. It's a little annoying, sometimes useful. Okay. Rotation's the same thing. You make your selections, choose your rotation, and then, okay, now this is tricky because normally you want to rotate on one plane at a time. So if you rotate off to the side, nothing happens. Okay, so you have to actually click on a component, see? Like that. And what's happening right now is it's rotating based on my viewport. So it's rotating based on the direction that I'm looking at it. Okay, so if you want to rotate according to another axis, scroll down the list and choose world or object or local. Local is going to be the average polynormal. And then if you want to limit it to X, Y, or Z, again, don't click on the gizmo, all right, because it's not really going to highlight any one of those channels for me. It's just going to give me nothing really. But pick the axis that you want to rotate on and then click directly on the component, and now it's going to rotate on that axis. Okay, so let's reset this back to world. Hit this gray bar right here to turn all three axes back on. Scaling, same stuff. Don't click right on the axis, click on the component. Like that. And if you want it to scale towards the local center, be sure to switch that to local so that it squeezes towards its center. Okay? And then go ahead and switch that back to world. And then there's a whole array of skills for using the custom pivots. So you can do lots of custom pivots. I'm not going to go through any of that right now. If you want to know more about manipulating custom pivots, and it's quite nice, go into the help file and look it up and read about it for yourself, but I don't need that right now. Okay, let's talk about symmetry. Something else to note before I go on to symmetry is that when you have it turned on and you're doing your work with the modeling toolkit, if you right click and go to object mode, it automatically drops out of modeling toolkit. So that could be a handy tip there for you. So if you want to get back to modeling practices and skills that you already know how to do from the intro to modeling class, and you want to get back to that, just swap over to object mode, reselect it, and then go back in using the same skill sets. Okay, let's talk about symmetry. Okay, so with the human that we're going to make, we're going to start with the box, and we're going to cut the box in half. So go to the polycube, set its subdivisions width to 2, and then it's going to cut it in half. Now, normally we cut it in half, and like we did with the cat modeling, and then we model with an instance that's have its x scale negated, inverted x scale. That's not how we're going to do it with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick an edge, any edge down the center line, just one, and then click the symmetry button. And that creates this Toho symmetry set, and it uses these two vertices as the center line. So as long as it's actually symmetrical on either side of these two vertices, it will have a perfectly symmetrical mesh. So everything that we do on one side will happen to the other side. It's really, really nice. This is true box modeling. This is the reason why I want to use this. along with the second reason why I want to use this, which is the quad draw tool. So the quad draw tool allows me to drop edges by holding control, and I can just click. Okay, that's not a big deal. You're thinking, oh, that's no big deal. Insert edge loop does that. All right, but the thing is that all I have to do is middle click and it drops it at 50%. And then here's why it's really awesome. If I tweak that one vertex right there, vertex, and I just pull it up, maybe pull this one up too. Okay, now this box has a curvature to it. All right, similar to if I hit number 3 in the keyboard, there's this curvature to it. Now when I use the quad draw and I split that, it's going to try to keep and preserve that curvature. More particularly, you'll see it right here. So right here there's a curvature, but it's flat. If I did a normal insert edge loop tool right there, okay, let's just do a comparison. Let's drop out of this, do a normal insert edge loop tool. Okay, it's still flat. Okay, now if I wanted that to be round, and in most cases with the human body I do, one of my principles is to always have curves from one edge to the next. No straight edges from one edge to the next. All right. Well, normally I have to go in here, I have to pick an edge, I have to tweak it, I have to manipulate it, okay, in order to get that curvature. Well, with the quad draw, grab that, come over here, middle click. Okay, I'm sorry, I missed something. Go to the multi-cut tool and enable this button right here, edge flow. This thing is just awesome. Now go back to quad draw. Okay, quad draw needed that one. Now watch this. You see how it pulled up like that? See how it pulled up on that shape? So I don't have to tweak all of the curvature. I mean, I still need to tweak the curvature. I mean, it's not going to get it exactly what I want, but it's getting close. At least it's trying to create a more natural feel to it. See, look at that. That's just fantastic. That is a fantastic feature. That's going to save me a huge amount of time. Again, that was under the multi-cut tool and turning on edge flow right there. And it also works with the multi-cut. So multi-cut's basically the same as just drawing across the mesh. And then you just hit return to finish that, or enter to finish that. And then the edge flow tries to keep the flow. And if I hold middle click when I use this tool, not hold middle click, but if I just middle click, it'll drop it at 50%. Hold on. Middle click is a slice tool. I'm sorry, middle click's the slice tool. Oh, I'm sorry, shift. Shift will snap to different areas. That's it, shift. There we go. And it'll even show you the percentage of where it's snapping. 50, 40, 30, 70, 80. That's so nice. Really fantastic tools. Hit enter to finish that. Hit return to finish it. So really, really, really good. So quad draw I'm using a lot. Multi-cut I'm using a little bit. I don't have to do a lot of that with meshes, but every once in a while I do. Extrude is useful. It's not too much more useful than the normal extrusion, but I am going to use this extrude. Okay, here's something interesting. So go to quad draw. Hold down control, middle click. That'll drop it straight at 50%, which cuts this box in half. All right, go to hit Q. Click that top edge, and then click symmetry. Now watch this. If I go to quad draw and I click that, notice I got that yellow flag warning. What it said is I lost my symmetry because that edge at the top had changed so significantly. So you have to select the edge again, Q, select the edge, click symmetry, and it just reestablishes the symmetry. And eventually you'll be able to split across that symmetrical edge. And then eventually you'll be able to pick an edge that you know you're never really going to touch anyway, like one on the forehead of the character or one between the eyes of the character. And then you can use that as the symmetry line. But in the beginning, in the very, very, very beginning, I noticed that it gives me that warning. See, there it is again. So I just lost symmetry again. So the more, the smaller the changes get, the less likely it will give you that warning. So I didn't get the warning there. So I'm not getting the warning anymore. All right, so that just gives you an indication of you're going to lose symmetry initially on that really low res box, but as it gets higher and higher in res, and the change to that symmetry edge gets smaller and smaller, you're not going to lose symmetry. Okay, and there's the symmetry set, so it's going to be between those two vertices. And you could always delete your symmetry set like that. Come over here, grab an edge, reset it, just to guarantee your symmetry is on. I do that once in a while. A couple things that are noteworthy under here, the object menu. You have X-ray mode on and off, so you can see through meshes if you need that. Show hide back faces. So in X-ray mode, instead of being able to, so show hide back faces is pretty obvious. So that could be useful. So you can see through the mesh, but it's going to hide the other bits. Highlight back faces in case you want to be able to highlight the opposite end. I turn that on and off as I need it. And oh yeah, and the modeling toolkit preferences under the options here. Here you can get a brief on how the Quad Draw tool works and what the different settings are, and you can change them. As well as hop over to the modeling toolkit menu help box and go to the hotkeys link and see what all the hotkeys are mapped to the modeling toolkit. Okay. There's a lot more to say about soft selections. There's a lot more to say about how to use this tool for retopologizing, which seems to be the majority of the way most people are using it. But I just love that feature where I can model on both sides simultaneously. It's going to make the extrusions really nice. You're going to see really soon. And it's also going to make it so much more helpful and fast to have the curvature assisted when using that Quad Draw. I'm just so excited about that. That's just so nice that it tries to preserve that curvature. Really nice. Saves me a huge amount of time. And Quad Draw is very, very powerful, and I'm at this point I'm just using it to insert edge loops. And that multi-cut tool, edge flow button, make sure that that's turned on. The selection constraints are interesting. If you choose angle, you can set the angle of, like let's hit Q, go to polygon mode. You can set the angle of how many neighboring polygons from where I click will be a part of the selection. So if I set this to like 10 degrees and I click this polygon, it's only going to grab polygons in the neighboring area that are within 10 degrees difference in terms of facing angle. And if I increase that to, if I increase it to 45 degrees, it'll grab polygons that are within 45 degrees. So it's a way of grabbing an entire side. See, very cool. You just click a single polygon and it'll grab as many things that are within that 45-degree tolerance. Another thing is border. So it'll select anything that's on the border. I have no borders with this. So if I hit Q and change this to off, and then grab some polygons here and just hit the delete key. Okay, so now I've got some borders. I also lost my symmetry because I deleted it. So I can pick an edge, reestablish symmetry. So now when I switch this to border and I go to something like edge and I click, it will, let's go to transform, translate, border, click, there we go, and now grab the entire border. So you just click one edge and it will grab the entire open border, and it won't grab any other edges. And if you switch to polygons and you click, it'll grab any polygon that's on that border. Same thing with vertices. Let's switch this to shell. Shell's the easiest one to understand. Click any polygon and it will select any other polygon that's in the contiguous shell. Those are pretty interesting and useful. And then these are really nice. Okay, sliding along the edge or sliding along the surface. Really, really nice when we get into a lot of detailing in the face, the muscles in the shoulders, and so on. So if we select this edge right here, and we want to constrain that edge to only move along the neighboring edges. So now when we tweak it, we can't move it off the box, see? We can't, it has to slide along the surface. Really, really nice. And we could select an entire edge loop and slide the entire edge loop. Very useful. And then over here, surface slide, same thing, except it doesn't bind itself down an edge, it'll just bind itself to the surface. So I can slide it around within limits. So like this little guy right here, I can slide it around on the surface and it will try to keep to the shape, the general shape of its neighboring vertices. Really nice features. Really, really good when you're doing retopologizing or just detailing in the face like what we're going to do. Okay, I'm sorry that it took so long to get to the modeling part, but we're there. Let's get started. here's a cube, and let's use our modeling toolkit to get this started. Go ahead and hide the reference for a moment. Switch to your modeling toolkit. You could tear this off if you like, put it side by side. Turn it on. Let's use quad draw. And along the across the x-axis, hold Control with quad draw turned on, and then just middle click once. And it will automatically drop it at 50%. And then I want you to hit Q, select this very top edge, and tap symmetry. If it's on, turn it off, and then turn it back on. And it will use that new edge as the symmetry edge. Okay. And if you go back to object mode, as I said earlier, it will automatically drop the modeling toolkit. Okay, so let's turn our reference on. Let's switch to the front view. And let's, doesn't really matter where the pivot point of this thing is. Let's just move it up to the chest, because we can move the pivot point anytime. Let's move it up to the chest, and we're going to make the shoulders, abdomen, hips first. So work right here in the core, and we'll work our way out from the core. Our first couple of moves is to get the vertices. We'll just swap to vertices here. And we should have, it should be symmetrical. Yeah. So let's get this center vertex all the way up here to the top of the sternum, between the collarbones. And let's get these outer vertices to the armpit, roughly. Yeah. Right about where you think the armpit is. And I'm looking at the right-hand side. I know that the left-hand side is going to be a little off. So just understand that I'm looking at this side. Okay. And then let's take this center line and move it down to the crotch. And again, we're a little off center, but just bring it right here to where the crotch stops, and then bring this to the top of the hip. Again, I'm looking at the right-hand side. Okay. Go to the side view. Go to the right-hand side. Okay. And spread these two at the top out. Go to the back. Go to the front, following your contours. For now, just stay on top of the contours until I tell you otherwise. And these, bring them forward. That one goes forward. This one goes to the side. Let's turn on the wireframe. And we can bring this one up slightly, because I want to follow the curvature, eventually the buttocks curvature in this way, following the hip. And then this one can go more towards hip angle, like that. This one could be more on the back of shoulder, and this one on the front of the shoulder, towards the armpit. This is the other side of the armpit underneath the shoulder. Something like that. Okay? Very, very basic. Very simple. Let's look at the front view again. Yeah. Good. Again, I'm looking at the right-hand side. Don't be confused about looking at the left-hand side. It's always going to be a little off, because we lined up the head earlier, if you remember. So the head is lined up pretty good, and there's a couple of misalignments in the head that we'll discover, but just don't look at the left-hand side. Stay on this side. Let's add three edges down the torso. Let's use the quad draw, holding Control, middle click, middle click, middle click, and then hit Q. Swap the vertices, W, make sure you're on tweak mode, and make sure all three axes are on, and then stay with the contours. This one's more inside. I should have that one inside. Adjust the flow. Adjust the flow. So these can come forward a little. See how when I pulled that one in, I automatically grabbed this one and pulled that one in. Adjusting the flow. Don't worry about this area. We'll add more in there. Okay. Okay. And then let's, before going to the front view, okay, well, let's go to the front view and take a look at it. So I want to pull these in. All right. But if I do that, I lose the, where is it? Where is it? I lose this nice line that I have here. This imaginary line that keeps with the torso. All right, like where these things are. So when I pull those in, I'm going to lose that volume. All right, so I need a support right here. 3-edge rule, remember? I need a third one. This is the first, a second, and a third. The one running down the middle is going to preserve the contours. So quad draw again. Control middle click. All right. Okay, now hit Q, W, switch to the front view. All right, now bring not the armpit ones, the corners where we already established those positions, those stay where they are. But the one just below it, pull that towards the pectoral, where about the nipple will be, or just to the side of the nipple, and then pull these in towards the abs. Again, adjust the flow. So, you know, if this is flowing in this direction, that would suggest the direction of the musculature, but it's not. Bring this down, bring this up. That's the direction of the musculature. Okay, this guy can come over a little further now. Okay, this is the one that we added that's on the center line. That's going to be our contour. The center line of the right-hand side. So that's the contour. It's not where the edge is that's important. It's where the vertex is that's important, especially at this low res. Okay, this is the edge that's on the inside of the armpit. So this is going to be running right along the latissimus, right there. Just imagine that's back there, and this is latissimus back here. This goes to the back. This one goes to the back. Okay, let's switch the back view. Ooh, I lost symmetry. All right. See, I don't want to redo all that stuff. So let's talk about how to get symmetry back. Forgot about that part. Let's get symmetry back. I'll show you how to do it. Okay, fixing symmetry is quite easy. It's easy. So let's go to object mode. Let's hit number 5. Let's turn on the wireframe. Okay, select faces. And you know this procedure. You should know this procedure. Delete the bad half. Select the mesh and mirror geometry option box. Mirror it to the other side. So we are going to mirror to the -x, merge with the original, and merge vertices. Okay, that should be perfect. And if it's still, if the center line's off, okay, the center line was off. All right, so the center line was off. So I'm going to undo that. Go to edge mode, double click the open edge. Hide the reference for the moment. Double click the open edge. Okay, so make sure I got the whole thing. And set it to be absolute x0. Okay, now that's all lined up on x0. And now we can go to mesh, mirror geometry, -x, merge with the original, merge the vertices, apply, and turn the reference back on. Go back to the right-hand view, hit number 4, and we should see no doubling of lines. So all the lines, it should look like there's only 1/2. So that looks good. And then go ahead and pick this one edge here, turn on the modeling toolkit, turn on symmetry, and now we should be back to a symmetrical flow. Yep, so we're back to symmetrical. So let's go back to vertices. And I wanted to go to the back side here and do a little work back here. So let's switch to back reference, switch to back view, and get this last vertex pulled in. Let's leave that one there and pull this in just a little bit. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. So we've got the symmetry fixed. We've got a center line on the side that's matching contours. We've got contour matching on the front, contour matching on the back, and really blocky in between. Good start. And then one last step before moving on to anything else is double check the form. Double check the form while in the perspective view. You know, just go through here and say, okay, is that a little weird? Yeah, that's a little weird. It's a little weird that that's not pulled as far forward. So I think it's okay to go to the right-hand view and tweak some vertices. So let's go back to translate with tweak. Just pull these forward. Give a little bit of volume. Let's give a little bit more volume to the chest, to the abs. That one can stay where it is because that's where the shoulders are. And then bring this out. Give a little bit of volume to the back, to the shoulders, to the lower back. And that's good. Bring this more towards the abs. And we might adjust this a little bit more later on, but that's acceptable. Okay. So as a low poly torso goes, that's pretty good. That's really low poly. Okay. So now that I'm happy with that, our next step is to identify the polygons for extruding the shoulders and hips out, because we want to get that done really early. Okay, so time to identify where the shoulders and hips come from. I already told myself earlier that this angle is where the shoulders were going to come out of, eventually the neck as well. Let's go to the front view references, frame 2, and it's going to pull out, the neck's going to go up this way. So it's all got to come out of this area right here. Same thing down here with the hips. I've identified these two here. In the beginning it was one polygon, and then I split it. Now it's 2 polygons. I actually need a total of 4 to pull shoulders and hips out, and that 4 will eventually turn into however many I need for digits. It'll be split again. So I'm going to use the quad draw. Let's go get that. And actually, let's make sure we select it first. Quad draw. And then I want to do a middle click to split there. And notice how it preserved that curvature. Saved a huge amount of time there. And then we're going to middle click again there. Okay, and so those are the 4 that are going to become shoulder and then arm. And these are the 4 right here that are going to become leg and eventually foot. And these are the 2, or 4 if you count both sides. These are the 4 that become neck and eventually head. That's a good map. Really nice. Now the advantage to this, and I'll show the proofs of this as we go, is that when I want to split an edge down the length of the arm, it won't flow up to the head. The head will be isolated and separate. It will flow up the shoulder, down the torso, down the leg, and down to the other toe. So from digit on hand to digit in the foot, it'll be one continuous flow. The 4 polygons I have selected here will become the shoulder and eventually the arm. So with those 2 selected, let's choose extrude. Okay, and then we can control the distance of the extrusion just clicking and dragging in the viewport. Go ahead and pull it out to about that far. Give yourself a little room to work. And I think it's okay to do an offset because it's flaring out. Let's do an offset. Again, just choose offset and then just click and drag in the view. Because you can see this input right here switches when I choose local Z or divisions. That little feedback is changing. So if I change divisions, I can change the number of divisions. I'm just going to do 1 division at a time. and then let's just drag, offset, squeeze those in. Okay, now let's do translate, tweak mode, all three axes, and let's just drag it down. Let's go to the front view when we do this. Let's just drag it down. It's going to flatten out a little. It's going to flatten out a little bit. That's okay. Let's go to the right-hand view. All right, now let's switch to vertex mode and tweak one at a time. Look at the wireframe. Okay, and eventually this round 4 polygons, I'm kind of rounding it out. That's eventually going to become my arm. Okay, let's look at it in the back view here. Let's go back to front view. Turn on the highlight back faces so that you can select through the mesh on the other side. Just pull these forward. Like that. That's it. We don't need that all the time. We'll just turn that on and off when we need it. Okay. Now, what I want you to do next is basically turn these vertices the other direction. So the ones on the bottom, let's get the marquee here. The ones on the bottom of the arm, those three, need to tweak and move closer to the armpit, way down here. And then let's go back to marquee. Then the middle three need to tweak and move roughly thereabout. Maybe even a little more. Maybe a little bit more. Actually, yeah, let's do a little bit more. I'll just tweak one at a time. Push this back. Push these really close. It's going to be a tight loop right here. Really tight. And if I need more room there later, I'll just open it up. But for now, let's keep it tight. Notice the extreme angles I go to in the camera to move that just right. Now I have this option over, where is it? This option right here to slide on the edge. You can turn that on so that it slides on that edge. So if you're feeling like you're doing good and you're getting it right, then that's a good option. I don't use that so much. I've never really got dependent on that sort of thing, but I don't know, I might. Maybe I'll build it into my procedures. Okay. So it doesn't need to be genius right now. It's not going to be a round shoulder right now. I just need it to be kind of sort of facing in the direction of the arm, because we're going to extrude it again. I'm just going to do it one more time. And let me tuck, I want to tuck this in a little bit harder, a little bit flatter. Not that one. Not that one. This one. There we go, like that. Yeah, that feels better. And going to the front view, yeah, that's closer to where the armpit's going to be, because the armpit's right in this area, jammed underneath all that muscle. Okay, let's extrude the arm one more time. Before I look at it, in the round. I'm sorry. Before I extrude it, I want to look at it in the round, and I want to look at it in the round, even with the references turned off, and just make sure that I'm, keeping good volume. It appears that I am. It's already feeling like shoulders. They're just not very big shoulders. Okay, not too bad. Yeah. Now we'll go back to these 4 polygons that are still selected apparently, and I will extrude them again. So I'll just hit Q, and those 4 are selected, and extrude. Nice. It remembered the last settings. You can choose reset, choose local Z, and then just push it out a little bit to about right about there is okay. No, maybe a little less than that. Right about there is okay. And then offset, just squeeze it in a little. Doesn't have to be a lot. 0.19, somewhere in there, 0.2. And then translate it. Okay, and notice how the front view is kind of inhibiting my view of all of this. All right, I should take the time to move that front view back, which means I'll have to keyframe the front view reference for each of the different locations. I should do that, but I'm not going to do that right now. I just want to stay focused on the model. Okay, and let's go to the front view anyway, and we can hide the reference just for the moment. Let's rotate. Let's rotate this, and let's rotate this on the view axis. So let's just tweak that. Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. It happened to me earlier when I did some rotations. It like really jacked it up. For some reason, rotations just aren't symmetry friendly. So drop that idea. Let's not rotate it. Let's just tweak it, right? Because tweaking is working just fine. So let's grab vertex. This time let's turn slide on edge, because I want to slide this vertex towards this vertex, towards that vertex. So I've got vertices, I've got translate turned on, tweak is on, transform constraint is edge, and I'm just going to pull it. See that? Just slides right up there. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's what I want. That one's not working out so well. That's pretty close. Okay, and then I want to bring, let's turn this edge slide thing off. And now I want to bring those three right there, I want to bring those down. So let's grab those. And let's switch back to front view. Turn my reference back on, because I want to stay on my contours. There we go, like that. Let's just tweak. Tweak that. All right. Doesn't seem like much, but I know this is going good. This is going way better than it was the first time I started. So there we go. Nice. Get these evened out. This is going to become the arm. Nice and even. Nice. Adjust the flow. Adjust the flow. There's not much to adjust here, so we're not going to touch those. And let's match contours on the front view only. So let's go back to front view. Make sure we're on contours. Front view only. Because that back view is not going to match up. Okay, I'm going to raise this up just a bit higher. And this one just a bit higher. So that when I insert an edge loop, let's go to quad draw just to show you. So when I insert one right here, it's going to push that shoulder up automatically. We might also just leave it there. It just looks nice. Hit Q. Go ahead and insert that edge loop. Perspective view. That's looking good. That's a nice hook. It's really tough. Like I said, I don't like arms down in the references. I like it when the arms are up like a little bit and I can get to the armpit. But we'll deal. This is how we're going to deal with it. That's looking good. Let's turn off the wireframe. Hide the reference. Select everything. Go to normals. Normals menu. Soften it. Just get a feel for it. Oh, that looks good. It's looking decent. Let's go back up to normals. Harden them. See how you can see the individual facets now? I like that. I like being able to see the individual facets. I feel like the pectoral's a little sunk right here. Now that we have some extra support, you see, because I dropped that edge in there. So now that I've dropped that edge in there, I have a little bit more freedom. I can give a little bit of pectoral flesh in here. Let's go to the right-hand view. Let's turn the references back on. Turn my wireframe back on. See, I feel like I can pull that edge forward now. Let's go to transform, tweak, vertices. Just pull that forward a little. That's nice. Pull this one down so we can see the collarbone. Collarbone's going to eventually come out of this. All right, looks like we're getting some good edges, some good vertices for pectoral. Up, over, right about where nipple is. Over, that's sternum. And this one's going to match profile. It's about the only place where I'm going to have straight edges is like across the base of the pectoral to make them look really, really powerful there. And then all of these vertices can go higher, right? Because we want to keep with the flow. We want to keep with this. So this guy's a strong guy, so we're going to keep with the flow and make sure I'm on contour. Matching contours. Let's stay on the abs, right on where the obliques. The obliques would be these side muscles on the abs. The obliques meet the front abdominals. Let's keep that consistent all the way across. Yeah, that's good. I hope you're in for a ride because this is going to take some time. I'm just getting started. That's pretty good there. Don't really have a hip line. I've kind of lost it. Hip line really should be more like right up there. Probably should focus a little more on hip. I've been having my eyes on the shoulders a little too long. Let's distribute these a little bit more, a little bit better. All right, let's focus on the back just a little bit. Make sure I'm on contour. Lots of stuff that has to happen up here. Let's go back to front. Again, check contours. Decent. Decent there. Decent. Okay, I think it was this second edge right here. That one. That's on the oblique. Yeah, see how I have it on the between the oblique and the ab, the front ab? That's the one. But in the front view, it's kind of on the side. It's not quite there. So let's take this edge. Let's turn edge slide on. And then, yeah, we'll tweak the edge. Just tuck that back. Nice. Tuck this back. Nice. If we switch back to the right-hand view, okay, turn the slide off and then move it straight forward. Because if we go back to front, see it's still there. Go back to the side, now it's there. Now it's in the right place. Now it's in the right place according to what we're trying to plan out here, what I'm trying to plan out here. So back to vertex. That's more towards nipple. More towards the base of the sternum in here. Base of the pectoral. I might lift those up. I don't know. We'll find out. Just want some sense of consistency here. These are running down the obliques. This edge is running down the obliques. Let's select it. Let's take a look at it in the front. Oh, did I select it? Yeah, okay. And then go back to front. Yeah, that's running down obliques. Let's turn that edge slide thing back on. Slide it. So it's running down this halfway of the obliques. Go back to right hand view. Just push back a little further. Turn off the edge slide and just pull them straight forward. Right about there. Go back to front. Yeah, that's where we want them to be. If we go back to perspective and look at this in volume, notice how we're really building up a good volume now, because we're really paying attention to where those edges are in respect to the muscle groups. It's nice. Looking nice. Let's turn that wireframe back on. Okay. Let's get back to the arm. Let's continue the arm. Okay, I really need to get back to the hips. All right, I need to get the hips to about as far as where I've got the shoulders. Otherwise, I'm going to really lose my focus, which I almost started doing, see, because these 4 polygons right here, those are to become eventually the leg and such. So they really shouldn't have been tucked up here. So I got distracted. Trying to keep on hip line, but really that wasn't the answer. So I need to get these things, let's go back to front. I need to get these more, let's get the translate, tweak, okay. Make sure I'm tweaking on all axes, yeah. And let's switch this to world, there we go. And then tweak those because the leg has to come out of these. So these are actually pointed more downward. Down, down, down. And then this one is separating leg from the crotch. So let's look at this. So this area is all private parts right here, all of that. And then this polygon is leg and this one is leg, right? Yeah, these two are legs. Yeah. Yep. That's it. Let's go back to front. Okay, and then once I extrude this will become far more obvious. So let's just get to the extrusion. Right, so there are my polygons. A little, oh gosh, it's a little jacked up there. I guess there's not that much I can do about it. I just can't tolerate having it too ugly even long before the extrusion because I can see what it's going to look like after I extrude, and then I'm just going to have more points to deal with. There we go. Okay, back to polygon. Okay. All right, that seems acceptable. It's pretty wide in the crotch, but I'll tighten it up in there. And that's going to become leg. So let's extrude. Yeah. Yeah. So this is where hips are really going to be born. So let's extrude a second time. Yeah. That's it. That's it. That's the hip right there. That's going to become the hip bone. All right. And then this one, the one I currently have selected, that can come down. So let's move that straight down. Straight down. So let's just do the y-axis. And then turn all three back on and tuck it in. Front view only. Let's do that. Yeah. And let's do scale. Scale, y-axis only. Oops, I did it again. Right on the components. There we go. Flatten it, see? So y-axis only flattens it. Let's do all three axes and squeeze it in. That's better. A little bit better. And then go translate and move it. Let's go to vertex. Grab the vertices and then move those to the center of the knee, right in the middle of the kneecap. Right hand knee on the front reference. Yeah, right in the middle of the kneecap. And then let's just scale them out just a little bit so that they're on contour, and then tweak. Let's just tweak individual vertices. Okay, there's something I'm trying to get to here. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to twist the leg. I'm going to twist the upper leg. But I'm only going to do it after I get this in place. Let's marquee all of that. Okay, you can deselect it now. There we go. Hit Q. Hit W. Get back. Oop, I don't need that. Number 5 is what I wanted. There we go. Okay. Okay. Looking okay. Looking pretty good. Okay. So what I'm after here, I really should spend some time on that hip before I do anything else. Let me spend some time on the hip before I do anything else. All right. I want to get this hip going in a good way. So let's get some tweak mode on vertices. And I'm just going to turn off the reference just for a moment. Just get these thighs closer to each other. That's, objective number one. Get those thighs in there. You've probably noticed by now there's a small amount of symmetry that's not quite right. That's why I'm really focusing my efforts on the right hand side, and then whatever's happening on the left can kind of just happen, and then as I need to correct it or adjust it, I'm just gonna cut it up. Let's bring these thighs in, bring the crotch in, but don't bring the thighs all the way in. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room where I can see things. That is important. I still need to be able to see what's going on in there. Turn my reference back on. Let's stay on contour. Got a little off. This is going to become hip. Now I feel more comfortable raising this up slightly above the hip. Right there. Yeah. Perfect. There. There. Now I know exactly where it's going. This is on the inside of the thigh. Again, I'm following this side of the thigh. Ignore the other side. Right here. Maybe just a little bit more. Yeah. This one can come up. That's a little... Is it? Yeah. Yeah, let's bring that up. I mean, eventually... Yeah. I mean, eventually I'm going to have more divisions in here to accommodate that. So, but yeah, that's fine. I just don't want it to be too terrible, even at this low poly state. Yeah, see the butt's looking a little chunky. Let's go to the right hand side and adjust his butt. He needs an adjustment. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. And where's that? So sometimes I haven't done much of this because I don't have a very complex mesh, but every once in a while I feel lost and I need to remind myself where's the flow. So I'll do that. I'll just select it and just confirm, oh, okay, yeah, that's the hip line, that's the hip bone, that's what we're building off of. Okay, now I can go back to tweaking, go back to wireframe, because sometimes it's hard to see, as you'll discover or have already discovered, sometimes it's hard to see what's going on with the wireframe. Where's all this stuff going? Okay. It's not too bad. It's going to be very difficult to get anything of healthy proportions in the buttocks, in the legs, without more vertices. Let's go to the back view. Just pull these in. It's got a very wide butt crack there, so let's pull that in. There we go. There we go. And maybe just a little higher on that, because the hip bone's up. Up, up, up. Yeah, that's way off on symmetry. Not sure what's going on there. I'm gonna have to do some serious fixing there. I have to get this half out. So I'm gonna go off camera and fix the symmetry again. I'm gonna cut the half and replace it. And you really want to be careful that you're not deleting something you don't intend to delete. Because it just makes more work for you later. Now that I've deleted that other half, let's confirm that the center edge line. I'm not using the modeling toolkit right now. I'm just doing normal Maya, traditional Maya, I guess. Go to the X0 absolute transform and enter 0. Make sure all of those are on 0. And then while we're here, since we can see clearly what's happening in the crotch, let's take a little time to tweak this. Let's go to the modeling toolkit. Tweak vertices. Yeah. Oh, and grab the mesh. And let's pull that one that got tucked in there. Let's pull that out. There we go. Cool. And let's bring this one down. This one down a little. Yeah. And let's just... okay, so that one's on X0. Let's pull this one back just a smidge. That one just a tiny bit. And let's bring this one up Higher? This one? No, not that one. That one. Let's just move it on the y-axis and just move it up. Up. There we go. Okay, and there's lots of opportunity for me to get this right. So, like I said earlier, I need a lot more divisions in there to get this hips and butt to look right. So, just don't have enough in there right now. So, let's get the other half back. I'll do that off camera. Good, yeah, and that hip is looking better. I'm just going to take these two vertices here, and I'm going to slide them. Let's do edge slide, and vertex and translate. And I'm just going to slide them this way till about halfway through. Oh, I forgot to turn my symmetry back on. Let's pick one up here. So, there we go. And now, yeah, there we go. And now slide it, yeah. Yeah, there we go. And then switch to the right-hand view, turn my reference on, and make sure that, okay, which ones did I just slide? Yeah, that one. Make sure that one is closer to profile, right? So this vertex. Oh, and turn slide off. Turn the transform off. Turn the transform constraint off. Pull this one more close towards profile. So that would help beef up the buttocks, and then pull this back, both of these, back towards profile, and this one back towards, not profile, I mean contours. Pull it towards contours. Yeah. Yeah. That's a better setup for when we split and we add some more in there. Much better setup. Yeah, okay, and then let's just add, like we did with the shoulders. So hips are pretty tight and short for men. Okay, they're a distinctive feature. Let's pull that down. Just I want this whole poly loop to be an even spread, and then I'm going to do quad draw. Hold Control, middle click. Oops, that was the wrong angle. Middle click. There we go, and then back to W. Yeah, back to transform. Translate, and then take a look at it. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. Already better. Okay, I think I'm more comfortable going back to the knees. Those aren't terrible hips. Terrible low poly hips. Those are better low poly hips. Much better. Let's turn the harden back on. Yeah, that just feels better. Let's soften it. One more double check. Yeah, that's feeling like a boy's hips. Good. Harden again. Harden the edges. There we go. And turn the wireframe back on. Okay, so I'm gonna stop in this section. So you're gonna have to load up into the next hour of training. I like to keep these around an hour. So we were able to complete, not within an hour's time. Getting this far took about 43 minutes according to my recording time. That's pretty good. In fact, that's incredible. I have great form. Proportions are coming along. I feel like there's good control over hips and shoulders, which is just critical. And in the next hour of training, I'll be working on arms, legs, feet, hands, transition to digits, the neck, and begin the head. See you in the next section.